And bids are the building blocks of relationships. And our ability to turn towards each other and actually connect requires us to make these bids often. So that life operating procedure is really about practicing these bids on a daily basis.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Look, if you're looking to or you got to raise the bar on your marriage, you gotta click the link and get into Married into Crazy, y'all. I'm telling you, this coaching is gonna take your relationship to another level. Now look, you already know you need to raise the bar. You know that already. So stop thinking or overthinking. Click that link, and Marriage into Crazy is gonna take you and your spouse to marital bliss. Now you know. Click the button. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks.
And we're back. It's 2023. I think we're in the second week of the new year.
It's already almost the middle of January. That's so
We're going to go there.
crazy. It's like, it's really
I'm really going to say the year is almost already over.
not the year, but I mean the month. It's crazy how things are like moving like the way that they're moving.
Time flies. Time
Yeah.
definitely flies.
So before we kind of get into everything that we're going to talk about, I just want to say there's a lot of things happening right now, especially we were talking about all this crazy weather that we're having. I'm hoping and praying that everyone is staying safe. They're able to find some shelter and, find out what resources you guys have in your areas for those that are unhoused, or you can help someone, or just there are people that are in need. So I'm just praying that you guys stay safe, you stay warm, and you're kind of taking care of yourselves. If you have family members out there, like I said, check out whatever resources that you can find so that you accommodate somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's trying times for many people out there. And one of the easiest way to show humanity, to be a part of it, like that commercial.
Hello, human kindness.
Hello, human kindness. I love that. I think that's Dignity Health that does that commercial. And the easiest way to do that is just to be human, to show that human kindness in some way, shape, or form, whether it's providing a coat to somebody you see on the side of the street, or like Snook said, providing an opportunity for shelter for somebody to just be available, to give them a space, a safe haven.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're meeting these calamities. I know. Okay, that's it. We're done with the human stuff. Let's keep it moving. No, not at all. Look.
That's funny. Nothing. No shade. It was just funny.
Wow. But okay, so look, here's my version.
Okay.
You're like, oh my, he's harsh. No, one of the things that we're doing to help out, we've removed, to a certain extent, pricing for the training that we put together. There were sales, people were buying it, but Snooks had it on her heart that she just didn't like the idea of us charging, like everybody in the world. She wanted to make sure there were no barriers.
I was going to say, what we want to do is remove whatever barriers that we can, to make sure that you're able to reap the benefits of what we have to offer. Not like, we dusting our shoulders off or anything like that, but it has helped couples, and we want everyone to be able to partake.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. We didn't want to put barriers on. It's hard enough living life with these self-limiting beliefs that we've thrust upon ourselves, and that we fight on a daily basis. You don't need other people placing barriers on you, or parameters, or borders, whatever you want to call them, placing limitations on you. So what we've done is, for our Raise the Bar training series, it's raise the bar on your marriage, right? And BAR stands for beliefs, actions, results. If you go to raisethebarmarriage.com, so raisethebarmarriage.com, you'll be able to see and look at testimonials from couples to see exactly how well the system has worked for them, what they've gotten from it, and you get to attach your own value to it. Look at what they're saying, read what it's all about, and then you decide, what is this worth to me? And just pay accordingly, whatever you think is fair. So it's the only barrier that's going to be placed on your marriage getting to the next level, your relationship getting to the next level, is the limitation that you place on it. And that's the way it should be. And our training is no different, right? Mm-hmm. Different values, different households. You get to decide.
Yeah.
We actually were with a couple the other day. And I just got to say this. We went to a wonderful baby shower out in the Bay Area, out in Oakland, and had the pleasure of sitting down just for a second with a couple that actually used our program. Mm-hmm. And it was really nice. It felt really good to hear what they were saying and what they do. And it was, we're not going to go into details about it, but it was definitely rewarding. And that's what we got out of it. That feeling that we got to know that we helped a couple go to the next level, turn a corner, is an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that being said, January typically seems to be the time when everyone wants to, I'm making a New Year's resolution. And there are people who even say, I don't believe in that. I'm not making no New Year's resolution. I'm just going to be blah, 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 whatever words they put into the slots. But it still typically tends to be a New Year's resolution, right? Because it's something that you're talking about doing at the beginning of the year. So kind of keeping in that same vein, we talked about values. We talked about just, I want to say starting over, but it's the beginning of the year. And what are we doing to move our relationship forward?
Planning, setting goals. People are doing vision boards or have done vision boards. There's a variety of things that people do to get started in the new year.
Mm-hmm. So, we do that stuff when our businesses and just even at work, we had our first quarterly meeting. And how often are we having these quarterly meetings or monthly meetings or what have you in your marriage? Because it's important, What did you call that? LOP?
Oh, the life operating procedures.
Is that LOP?
The LOP. Why?
Whatever. Don't even go there.
She's always sounding out the acronym. Like for the King's Accountability Group that I belong to. It's a group of men across, and again, it's not CAG. You can say CAG with a hard G.
CAG.
CAG. Okay. It sounds like VAG. And that just,
oh my God.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I apologize, y'all, because what?
I'm not feeling that.
Oh my. You don't have to feel it. You don't got to say it. I call it CAG.
My group, we call it what I want.
They're my friends, so I'm gonna say
pretty much
whatever.
Pretty much.
But
anyway, so LOP is life operating procedures, right? So we have a very close friend. You're going to see him, and we're going to have him and his wife back on the program to discuss life operating procedures for couples. But what we wanted to get into tonight was just talking about different things that require a life operating procedure. Right. So when we say a life operating procedure, it's very similar to what you might hear about in corporate America, when you're talking about a standard operating procedure. You hear about SOPs. It's real big in the military. We had SOPs for everything that we did from a career standpoint. There was an SOP. There's a standard operating procedure to get something done.
So the standard operating procedure, this is me asking you. So the standard operating procedure basically is the blueprint for how you're supposed to do something. Is that right?
Amen.
Okay. Go ahead. Finish.
So no, it's the blueprint, right? It's the guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tech manual. It's the instructions on how to get through this. Like, oh, okay, I need to open up the refrigerator. There's an SOP for that. You got to grab the handle, hold it firmly, pull. That's what it is. But what it comes down to for our relationships, something very similar to where we should have a life operating procedure when it comes to our marriages. And why is that? And that's because we go through stuff. Mm-hmm. And we think that marriage is about these big, grandiose things, right? Like well, I'm going to take her on vacation. We're going to go to Dubai, or
I like that.
I know you would, but like we're going to go do all these wonderful things, or go to these different, but these big gestures. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that. Your life operating procedure can be something as small as, working well when it comes time to dealing with bids. Bids, for those of you that don't know what a bid is, it's a term that we've picked up from the Gottman Institute. And a bid is the exchange of emotional communication in relationships. We do it every day. You just don't call it a bid.
Okay, so and just to even break it down a little bit more layman's terms, I feel like a bid is basically is a basic attempt at connection.
Yes.
Would you? Okay, so for myself, that's
she's woman splaining.
wow. Okay, well, hey, let's do that.
Let's do that. Let's go.
But okay, so it's like it's just basically not expressing communication, but it's how we communicate. It's like I throw it out there, like you go fishing, I throw out the fishing hook, and then I'm reeling it in, and I'm attempting to get fish. That's what I'm hoping, that's the purpose of doing it. Throwing out what is the thing called? Okay, anyway. So but that's basically what we do when we're making connections, when we're communicating. If I say, "Hey babe," or "Lovey, how was your day today?" So that's my attempt to communicate with
That's
him.
a bid. That's a bid. And then me participating in that bid, or I would meet it with, "I'm doing great,"
or
"I'm not doing so well," or what have you. But that's an exchange.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what happens is you have couples who don't have that type of exchange. I might throw it out, "Hey, how was your day?" Blah, blah, blah. And then I don't get a response. Or the response is kind of, or something that is not engaging to where I can follow up with, "Oh, we can continue the conversation." It's like having open-ended questions. Open-ended questions lead to more questions, which leads to more dialogue. If everything is closed-ended, then that's really kind of the end of whatever. And it's like what you're saying, the bid stops. So if one of our LOPs or LOPs is to have better communication, then let's talk about how we do that. That's just kind of an example.
No, you're right, because ultimately what you're talking about is bids build connection, right? Like the example that you use when you said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then I sit there and I give my response. There's a connection, right? In that response, in that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Missing a bid results in a disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
So the example being like, okay, so you're working, I'm working home from the office or whatever, or there's a spouse that's at home, and then you've been there all day. The other spouse comes home. "Hey, babe, I'm home." Met with nothing. You hear the TV going, and you're thinking, okay, well, what's going on? So you go into the living room, and spouse is sitting there watching a TV show, and you go like, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" And all you get is a nod.
So
Don't even get the sup.
I'm
You're just like, let's get the nod. And the other person is like, "Okay, well, hi, well, whatever." And then you go upstairs. Now you're something's brewing in your mind, like, well, what's going on with him? Now you think that person has an attitude. It might have been that he was binging on his favorite show all day long. I don't know. Maybe he had vacation, or she had vacation, and they just want to get to this last episode to connect or whatever. And I'm not making any excuses, because the opportunity to connect via that bid is now lost. Now imagine that happening on a daily basis, more than once. Now there's a narrative that's being built up in someone's head, like, "Oh, you don't want to talk to me. Okay, well," and now you don't look forward to coming home. So that coming home, that what used to be, "Hey, babe, I'm home," now is, I put my keys, I drop my keys off in a little basket when I get home. I take off my shoes and I just go straight to my room. I go upstairs. I don't even attempt to say hello anymore.
And in the meantime, you're oblivious to everything that's going on, because in my head I created, like you said, a false scenario of why you're acting this way. And it's one of our acronyms, it's the R stands for real. So it's no longer real. Well, it's real to me in my emotions, but it's not the reality of the real situation, what's going on. So I'm mad. You don't know, you don't know why I'm mad, but you're like, oh, you ain't speaking. So you come upstairs, oh babe, hey, I didn't see you come in, or oh, I didn't hear you, or and then I could just blow. Well, shoot, when I do come home and say hi, you don't never say hi, you don't ever respond, blah, 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 whatever. You'd be like, wait, where is all this coming from?
Right. And so a basic life operating principle when it comes to your marriage, seek out those bids that are taking place. So bids can range from basic attempts, like we talked about, hey babe, how you doing? Or hi, simply saying hi, that's a bid, right? For an exchange. But basic attempts are like, hey, did you see that? Or it's like simple little conversations, just the little things. Mm-hmm. Right. And it can get all the way into something like a deeper expression of emotional vulnerabilities. It can go from, did you see that? Or hi, how are you doing? To, man, am I a good husband or am I a good father?
Because she always walking around with attitude.
Does she love me? Am I attractive? Is there something wrong with me? There's all these little things. And if you're saying them to yourself, and then let's just say you take the step and you say it to your spouse. And then you get like, no, you're fine. Rather than having a deep, meaningful conversation about it, that bid for validation has now actually been met with, I don't know, like you're just getting quelled, like it's just being squashed. And bids are the building blocks of relationships. And our ability to turn towards each other and actually connect requires us to make these bids often. So that life operating procedure is really about practicing these bids on a daily basis. Because if you think, I'll make a leap here.
Okay.
If you look at these people that have done great things, let's just use sports. I like to use Kobe. So Kobe's known for, you want the ball in his hands at the end of the game. That's just the way it is. They called him the Black Mamba because he was so deadly. But people think, oh, he rose to the occasion. Or you look at Tom Brady. Oh, he did it again. Not this year, but in the past. Wow. What he's known for was, oh, he did it again. It used to be that way with Joe Montana. It used to be that way with Michael Jordan. It's been that way with LeBron. It's been, so all these great sports figures, they're known for being clutch individuals. Larry Bird, that you want the ball in their hands at the last second, whatever it is, so they can make the decision, make the play. And you think they rose to the occasion, but that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is they didn't rise to their occasion. If you read a book called Atomic Habits, it talks about how we don't rise to the level of the opportunity. We don't rise to the occasion. We actually fall to the level of our preparation or our routines. So by falling to the level of your preparation or the level of your routines, how does that happen in our marriage? If I'm not actively building bids, if I'm not actively building connections, if I'm not actively building bridges to my spouse, and she is actively building her bridge to me as well in response, and we're going back and forth, or if she's not actively building bids to me or building bridges to me on the little things like we talked about, hi, how you doing? I'm home. Those little things. What happens when the big things happen, the calamities of life approach us? Because the big bad wolf does show up often, and there's going to be a huff and a puff, and something's going to attempt to blow your house down. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a life operating procedure there, you've been adding a brick, if you will, every day. Think of the bids as your bricks to the home that you're building. If you're not adding bricks on a daily basis, then it's going to be a lot easier for something to come along and blow your house down.
So when you go back to the LOPs, I mean, when you talk about the bids and tying that into like LOPs, it's important that you have these conversations about what's important. You know what I'm saying? In the relationship, how you want to receive your bid, and if you don't even have to call a bid, but how you are, how you want to receive, not information, but responses. So one LOP that we have in the morning, we pray together. We say our mantra. I mean, these are standard life operating procedures. So basically, there are things that you do together in your marriage to make it or to help it to grow and to continue to build. We could go about our day and, excuse me, I'd be like, all right, babe, I got to go when I'm working in the office. And Lovey will do his thing, I do my thing. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but we figured out for us, that's a very serious LOP. That's a procedure that we have to do. And because we've been doing it for so long, when we don't do it, we're like, oh, this didn't feel right today. Something is off. We may not be like, oh, shoot, you know what? We did not say our prayer. And I'm going to be honest, we always keep it real, being transparent. So with Lovey being at home now, before it was like, okay, we got to do our prayer. We have to do our mantra before you leave. So now he's home and he could be down here working before I get down here to do my work, or he might be in the middle of a call or whatever it is. So it's easy to be like, oh, okay, we got to do this. And then you start working on other things. But when you start skipping processes, I should say, not
Right.
allowing, but when you start skipping processes and you get used to skipping processes, it doesn't become such a big, you're like, I got used to it. So now, for me, I feel like there's holes punched into my day. I'm like, oh, shoot, we got to fill it back up. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And it's crazy. Like today is one of those days where we just jumped right into it. I came downstairs and just immediately started working. And because I had an early meeting, and I figured, okay, well, I'll loop back to Snooks and we'll say our prayer and we'll say our mantra and keep it moving. Never happened. But it doesn't stop it. We can still say it, say our prayer this evening, say our mantra, but it is that big of a part of our day. Our LOP is so ingrained that, like Snook said, it's just one of those things where when it doesn't happen, it's like wearing jewelry. Like when you don't wear your ring, or you walk out the house and you're not wearing your watch, it's like it throws you off all day long. Like you're constantly grabbing your wrist, like, oh, my wrist isn't, or you're touching your finger because you forgot your ring, and because it's one of those things you just don't feel right. And that's what your LOP is supposed to be all about. That's what your life operating principle is about. We're going to revisit this. There's going to be a process. We're going to have the Mohammedans come on and really talk about how to establish your life operating procedures for your relationship. And they're going to touch on some of the things that we talked about, specifically about developing a mantra, other things. But this is just one element. Your LOP could be very different from somebody else's LOP, another couple. The great majority don't have a life operating principle. You recognize a business that does not have, a solid standard operating procedure,
because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my experience. It's like with customer service, when you need something, say you need to return something and no one can find where the receipts are or whatever, is not on the system. Okay, well, this person or that, it's chaos. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like, it's chaos. So when we have everything, the procedures written down, okay, well, let me look here, because that's where it goes. And if I can't find it here, there's typically a backup. Okay, I know to go there. Everything that you should be doing, or that will aid you in growing, whether it is your business or, your relationship, as we're talking about, there's something that is not just on a whim. We're going to throw some dice and be like, okay, we're going to move 7, or whatever. We know what we're supposed to be doing. We've decided, we discussed it. We came up with, these are the things that are most important, because these are the things that work. These are the things that help us. So when we're talking about procedures, that's what that means. It means the two of you coming together and deciding on how it's going to work for you.
Right. But think about, it was in the news recently, right? Remember the meltdown, the airline meltdown that took place not that long ago with Southwest Airlines? And people were like stranded all over the place. And this during Christmas. Right? People left early. I'm going to get to my destination. They're leaving on the 22nd or the 23rd, and they spent Christmas in an airport because it was like the perfect storm between the weather and personnel and whatever. There were so many things that took place. Oh, and an old system, an old antiquated system that Southwest admitted to, that the staff members admitted to, that they just weren't prepared. Their system wasn't built to handle the challenges that hit them all in that time frame. Well, that's because their standard operating procedures were not updated to the point where it could handle what was, the big bad wolf showed up and was huffing and puffing and darn near blew their house down. And there's a major impact. It impacted lives. And if we don't create these SOPs or these LOPs for our marriage, for our homes, it's just a matter of time before your house, your life starts looking as chaotic as that Southwest meltdown because we haven't updated our systems. The system you had in place when you were single, well, hey, bruh, that system don't work no more. Doesn't apply to you. What worked then is definitely not going to work now.
Another thing too is when you sit down and you go over, you write out these procedures, it's so important to be very honest, be very open, be very transparent about what the expectation or what it is that you want to see. Don't just go by, well, this is what she wants, knowing you hate whatever, and just so that you can say, well, we have our LOPs, or no, you have to have some input. So it's not one of those things where you can just check off a box. You really need to think about what it is that you want. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to reach? Whatever it is, what are your goals? What are your dreams? All that stuff comes from, I shouldn't say comes from that. This is what I feel like you will be able to attain that kind of stuff, those things, if you have these other things in place. You can't just be out here chucking a football and thinking, all right, let's do it. You got to have a plan.
No, exactly. It's got to be about the plan, but it has to be made together. Like you said, you were saying that you can't just do this. I'm going to use an old person's phrase, all willy-nilly.
We say willy-nilly.
Gonna be out there all willy-nilly.
It's all willy-nilly.
Look, create a life operating procedure for your marriage, for your relationship. You might want to, my recommendation is you start with, some type of routine. Because what's going to end up happening is you are not going to be you will never rise to the level of the occasion. You will always fall to the level of your preparation.
So that means if you don't prepare, then it's a wrap.
Oh, that's right. You might get through it. Your skill set might get you through it that time. Somebody, there's musical groups out there that were one-hit wonders. Had a great song. It was slapping. Everybody was up in a club. And they're like, whatever happened to that group that did blah, blah, blah? Because they didn't have an LOP. They didn't have a routine to continue to create hits. Everybody can't be a Snoop Dogg. Everybody can't be an LL. The reason why they were around for so long and stayed in the industry and did so, all these individuals that have been around for a very long time is because there was some type of routine, some type of process, some type of procedure in which they had operating procedures that they followed, and they were able to apply it to a variety of different areas to make sure they kept coming back, and they kept coming back, and their careers lasted, umpteen times longer than anybody else's. Decades. When there's a lot of people out there that only have one hit because they made it once, but they couldn't recreate it because they didn't even know how they did it the first time. Comes back to, you will not rise to the level of the occasion. You will always fall to the level of your preparation. And that preparation can be as simple as you're turning 2 bids, right? Those bids we talked about. Making sure that you're present when your spouse is just saying, hi, how are you doing? How was your day? You practice that on a daily basis. That will strengthen you to the point where when somebody comes in, you won't believe what happened to me today. I got you. What's going on, babe? Just that response would be like, this is my safe place. I can decompress. So there's things that you can do that's simple and you can build it up, but start with something, whatever it may be. Maybe it's getting up in the morning and saying a prayer together and doing your mantra together. That could be an LOP, a part of your LOP. That then lends itself to something else. You can habit stack with these different things. The more you do consistently, the stronger you're going to be to withstand anything that shows up on your doorstep and tries to blow your home down.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But in that though, I think that we need to allow for grace, because a lot of times when LOPs, something that's new is being introduced, we don't get it right the first time. One person may be more on it than the other person, and you might get upset about, well, I knew you wasn't going. Well, no, let's not have that kind of attitude. Allow grace for the missteps or the mishaps, but in allowing grace, I'll say when you allow grace, but the other person needs to be aware that, okay, this is important to my spouse or my partner or whatever, so you're being as cognizant of that person's feelings as they are of giving you grace. Excuse me. Because it does nothing but strengthen the relationship.
Yep, I agree.
It's like a baby. Babies don't know how to walk right away. First they scooch and then they roll or whatever, and then they crawl. So it's a process, but continue to work on that process every day.
And that process that you're going to be working on, it's another rep. It's like going to the gym. The more you do it, the stronger you're going to get. The stronger your relationship's going to get. And you're going to find that you're able to, the little things that would have derailed your relationship for a few minutes or maybe a day or maybe a week, now bounce off you like you're Superman or Superwoman, and the bullets are just bouncing off of you.
And don't be ashamed to, if you have to write those procedures out or print them out or whatever it is.
You need to.
Well, I'm just saying, because some people, be like, oh man, I ain't finna do that, or oh, why you got this? Oh, that's so silly. That's corny, or whatever it is. It's not, because if this relationship means as much to you as you say it does, you would do everything within your power to make sure that you are on the up and up, on the same page, and everything is working the way that you all want it to.
Yep. So we hope there was some nuggets in there that you're able to utilize. There's going to be a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity. We're going to talk a lot about growing your relationship in 2023. And just making this year the best year of your life. And it's really setting the foundation for the rest of your relationship. So we appreciate each and every one of you. If you've enjoyed what we talked about today, please go and subscribe over on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify, and wherever it is that you're downloading us. Go ahead and subscribe to us, please, and tell a friend. And if you have the ability, leave a review. We would truly appreciate that. That's the currency in which we operate. Those reviews are all important, so we appreciate you. And we're going to make more and more requests for the reviews, and that's our bid. Our bid to you is to actually have you go and leave a review. If you haven't done so already, please do that, and then tell a friend.
That's right.
All right. Until the next time.
Be blessed.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.